Behind every mission, there's a plan. Behind every plan, there's a soldier, training, leading, and getting the job done. This is the Kentucky National Guard's G3 podcast, where we share the stories, lessons, and leadership that keep our Guard always ready, always there.
Welcome, hello, we're back to the G3 podcast, Fix Bayonet. I am your favorite podcast, Platoon Sergeant, Sergeant B. We are here today in what should be Frankfort, Kentucky, but it looks like Antarctica outside. I am so over this weather, so over it. I hope you are warm and safe. Glad to have you here. We're going to kind of dive in today to a part two from the last podcast, Sergeant Major Nein with Raven 4-2. But we're going to go through a different kind of perspective of the training and the eyes of, at the time, the E4 Mafia Specialist Cooper. But as we go on, he'll build up to where his career is at and kind of tell his part of the Raven 4-2 incidents and stuff that he's went through in his deployments and training over the years. So with that being said, let's dive right into this. I have with me Sergeant First Class Casey Cooper. Man, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, I'm glad to have you here. Like I said, it's been an adventure so far doing some of these episodes, but I've heard so much with the Raven 4-2 incident, obviously, and then just stuff that y'all have done over the years. So having you here to tell your side of it, which will come from Specialist Cooper back in the day. So I think it'll be a fun time to talk about stuff like that. But let's dive into a little bit about you. You are a recipient of the Bronze Star Medal with a V device, and that was for that incident, and the Purple Heart.
It was.
For the incident from the Raven 4-2, and then you also had an ARCOM with V from a firefight. Was that before?
It was.
It was before. That was the first award.
January the 29th, yep.
Okay. Been on 2 deployments to Iraq, your favorite place.
Yep.
And so with that, let's dive into how you kind of got started with your career, because I did laugh. So for people that don't know, we don't get to know each other first. I met you for 5 minutes one time, and it seems to be the way of the road for me. So, but one thing I did laugh about, I sent out a bio, and you had talked about when you first got in, and that was because you tried college first, correct?
I did.
How'd that go?
About as well as everybody around me anticipated.
Yeah.
You know, I was fortunate. I had some educational scholarship opportunities, you know, because I was relatively well educated in high school.
Right.
I went to Murray State University, joined a fraternity as a freshman, which was never a good decision. I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. Get at least a year under your belt. At that point, my grades started to drop.
Yeah.
They decided to take that scholarship opportunity away from me.
Right.
And my dad gave me the ultimatum, like any good father would. He's like, I'm not going to pay for you to go up there and fool around. So you need to come back and either start digging ditches and get a job or figure something else out. But I'm not paying for this. So at that point, I decided to take my fate in my own hands, and I walked into a recruiter's office that day. It was 2003, so the war had just kicked off. And it was May. I walked into a recruiter's office and said, "Hey, are you all still doing that scholarship thing where you pay for school?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, let's go. Let's do this." The MEPS process and entry was a little bit more streamlined at the time, and I had a great process. It only took me a couple weeks before I went to basic training.
Right.
Yep.
And it's, one thing, the word you use, like I was like a unicorn, because it's something that you technically don't see a lot anymore. Is you said I wanted to go get money for college. You just walked in, really no appointment. It was just like, hey, I'm ready to join, and then they just jumped on that, And I seem like that was something they did in the past that you don't see a lot these days. So it
did. There was a lot of service-related members of my family. Everybody joined and served at some point, in one reason or another. And being the unicorn part was, you'll have a lot of walk-ins, because I came out of recruiting as well.
Right.
You have a lot of walk-ins, or you'll recruit and have really, really good applicants and candidates. But some people may have some medical issues, or some people may have some ASVAB issues, or whatever it is. I just happened to be in that niche area where everything kind of lined up, and I was able to join right away.
Well, you had brought up, you came in as a 25 Charlie?
I did.
Correct? That's Camo?
It was Camo.
But you were colorblind, though.
It was a 31 Charlie.
Okay.
Because that MOS doesn't even exist anymore. We're all so old at this point. They switched over to 25 series. I had joined to be a 19 kilo, which is a tanker, and we still had armor in Kentucky, and it was a big area. they told me at MEPS, I found out I was colorblind. And they said, well, now you kind of narrowed your opportunities down. And they said, so let's look at them and see what they've got. So I picked a commo slot, thought it would give me a great opportunity and a head start, and just went with it.
Just went with that. That's something interesting, because I feel like I know several people, though, they didn't know they were colorblind until they got the MEPS. That's crazy to me.
It is.
You never knew, like, in your lifetime, that you really, before then?
Absolutely no, because if you grow up your entire life pointing at a color, say we've got black here, or even a color like yellow, green, whatever.
Yeah.
If you point at that and somebody says that's green, no matter what you see, to you that shade, whatever that happens to look like, is green.
Yeah.
So the real determining factor came up when they show us the Ishihara plates, and you see those dots, and they're like, you've got to see some numbers in there.
You didn't see them.
I didn't see those numbers. And I was like, this is some kind of sick joke. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we got some red-green issues going on. Yeah.
All right. So no EOD then?
No, definitely no EOD, no flight school, and
50,
that's unfortunate.
50-50, yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like it's worked out, because you said you came in as a 25 Charlie, and then eventually you crossed over to the 31 Bravo MOS?
I did. After my first annual training, as soon as I got back from basic training, we went to AT with the 130th Combat Heavy Engineers. It was a great unit, but I was the only commo person there. We had a fantastic annual training down at Coronado Naval Base. It was beautiful. We spent 2 weeks out there working on some border crossing stuff down at that border. So it was a nice adventure doing that kind of stuff. I was the commander's driver, but our final day there, we had sort of a picnic out on the beach. And they sprung it on us that, hey, does anybody feel like becoming a military police and, going to Iraq? We need, some people to try, because, they were going overseas. They knew they had it, and they wanted some people to reclass. I didn't really have anything going on. I was young, 18 years old, 19, so I raised my hand. I was like, I'll go. I got nothing going on. And took off.
And that's how it happened, huh?
Yep. And as soon as I completed MP training, that was in July of 2004. In September, I joined the Det 1 617th and became part of Raven 4-2.
There you go. That's crazy how life works out, though. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, think about that. If you did raise your hand, where you'd be now. It's just,
there's no telling.
It's the stories that soldiers have are pretty amazing. Just what's going on, but then we kind of dive into, even you became full time in 2009, which we'll get to the deployment. So this is after you come back from both deployments.
Sure.
And then just chase that AGR career. Is that what you end up doing?
I did. I realized it was something that I really enjoyed, something that I'd shown proficiency in. And decided to attack it, and decided I wanted to be a part of my everyday career. Anybody that knows the AJR program knows it's probably the best kept secret in the Army. It's a fantastic opportunity, and it's been a great career so far.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to work all over the state. I've gone from human resources, HR, to readiness and recruiting. I've worked in the budget office. I've worked up in the office of officer personnel management up in the state G1. So there's a lot of room for growth and opportunity and broadening, and it's been really fulfilling, definitely, to do it.
Yeah. The networking, I think that's the crazy thing that when I talked to Sergeant Major Nein was, he was 31 Bravo, true and true, right?
Yep.
Just bam, 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 bam. But I thought people like that's kind of unique, just because, like you talked about, I was the same route of when I became full-time, you kind of bounce around and, do networking, which I stayed in the same battalion, but I had 42 Alpha, I had 13 Mike. You name all these MOSs, but you do it as you go, and it all, to me, kind of shaped me. So it's like, seeing people that don't do that route, it's kind of unique, but then also, like, people like you, you kind of bounced around. You went into recruiting and stuff at one point. You went into budgeting, so it's like, you've had a pretty unique career just from where you started at to now, so.
I have, yeah. I would say that both aspects have benefits and downfalls. I got the opportunity of seeing perspective from all the different levels of state, brigade, battalion, and the unit level. And that gives me perspective to be able to hopefully help soldiers that haven't seen what goes on both ends or both levels or anything like that. Whereas Sergeant Major Nein is a 31B, and so he gets very, very specially focused, and he has a really, really strong mindset in the MP world, and is the absolute subject matter expert in that area.
Yeah,
sure.
I would totally believe it after one conversation with him.
Yeah.
He said that one only MOS is what he let me know.
Yeah.
But so you're going on 17 years of active service.
It's close. I'm crossing over to 19 years. March will be 19 years.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry. Yeah, March will be 19 years of active service.
Right.
I'm in my 23rd overall year.
Yeah. That's and then, I mean, digging in a little bit, but you said you're married to a retired AGR, correct?
I am.
Who's your wife?
Emily Cooper was Emily Tanzel.
Okay.
She was readiness in the MP battalion as well, the 1103rd. She worked supply for the 1103rd, and when it was still a unit, in the 223rd. We actually worked in the same office for a couple of years.
Really?
And it was a great dynamic.
Yeah.
Being able to, still maintain professional, conduct, but still getting to see your wife every day and getting to maintain the same schedules. The great thing about having somebody that's a veteran with you or that retired with you is they understand where you're coming home with. If whatever's going on, if it's USR week or drill week or something like that, they can
know.
absolutely deal with understanding how you're feeling and what you're going through, and that's always great to have that kind of support.
Yeah, that's kind of cool because I mean I'm dual status as well, but my wife is MDay. But you meet some people that's the kind of that dual AGR role, and you got 3 kids.
We do.
So I mean, managing a family and then both being in the military heavy family. So it's like that's another thing to kind of really people don't hear about a lot. That whole dynamic of that, and that is cool how you put it though. It's the relating to each other is pretty.
It is
pretty
being
familiar.
able to relate is fantastic. We have if you're going to be dual AGR, you've got to have a really really good support system. Family care plan's got to be tightened up. We've got family members like her sister that just is basically a third parent to us that always helps out with everything. She's always fantastic. So having that family support structure with anybody in the military is a great thing to have for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I believe that too because I've always said it about us with family. You got to have somebody when it comes to stuff like that. But excuse you.
Excuse me.
No, keep it going. But yeah, that's like I said, I wanted to bring that up because there is people out there that's listening. It's kind of that same boat, and there's resources out there, stuff too, as help. But you got to have that support structure to do what you're doing, even if you're a single soldier doing it. But that dual role that's pretty crazy. But so yeah, let's dive into something else. Actually, let's take a break real quick, and when we come back, let's jump into some of the training. What I'd like to do is talk to you about some of the past things that you came up doing and some of the stuff that's still similar, or some techniques that y'all had to upgrade, or even rules of the road that you was like, this was a terrible idea, and we learned from it real quick. So I think that's another thing that we usually, you hone on all the good stuff, but sometimes that bad stuff's what you learn from. And I'm sure you know that too. So so let's take a little break real quick, and when we come back, we'll jump into the training side of it.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Welcome back to the G3P. We're here with Sergeant First Class Cooper today. We're talking about that second part of Raven 4-2, but let's jump into a sponsorship that we like to do for episode number 3. And I know you probably got a subscription to Netflix and all these different magazines. I think ESPN had a magazine back in the day, but what you really should be accustomed to is the Bluegrass Guard. Here in the Kentucky Army National Guard, you can see pictures of your friends, all your battle buddies. It's a great publication. And guess what? You're like, oh, man, did I cancel that subscription? You didn't, because you signed up for the military. So just by doing that, you should be receiving your Bluegrass Guard magazine. And if you're not, then get with your Readiness NCO today and check IPSA for your home address, because that's where you're going wrong at. But shout out Bluegrass Guard. Sergeant Cooper.
Sir.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
So we kind of went over your life of coming up and joining the military and kind of how you're living. So let's kind of jump back in time and kind of focus on a training aspect. I guess right off the rip, just kind of what comes to mind is when you first got in, has training, I know it's kind of been adaptive as we've went along, but what was some things that you can remember when you first got in that you trained even at home station? Because I know home station drills were kind of a bigger thing before we really kind of went out to all the ranges and started moving around a lot. But was there things at home station you remember doing that you were like, I love this. This is what I joined for?
I do. My very first, besides being a commo as an MP, whenever I first joined and joined the 617th, I was given to Staff Sergeant at the time, Nein, and met our team then. And if you've ever seen the first episode of Band of Brothers, you can always understand that Sobel's platoon or Sobel's company was the ones that were always working, always training, always doing something. Right. It was a lot like that with our squad. Not in a negative way, but when everybody else was hanging out in the racks, when they were at Pre-Mob AT or something like that at Wiffertech, he always had us out there together doing something, whether it was weapons cleaning, which was huge, but we maintained a lot of cross-level training, and that was huge in our teams, because just because I was a gunner specifically, I had to learn how to drive. I needed to use how to learn the radios. I had to work the FBCB2 or BFT or JVCP or whatever it is now.
Yeah.
You know, as they adapt, every system that they used, every tactic, technique, procedure, TTP that Sergeant Knight at the squad leader level would use, the cross-level training of everybody knows everybody's job was critical. You see that still to this day, but it just seemed more pertinent at the time, because we would always practice battle drills of different areas that at the squad level that were fantastic and helpful. But I was 100% a gunner all the way. I was an E4. I was brand new to the military. I had a camaraderie with my other E4 gunners in the company, and we would get together and do our training most of the time separate from everybody else.
Yeah.
I can only relate it to, in the AGR world that we have now, you know, the 1 section and the 3 section and the 6, they all kind of work together, but the 4 kind of does their own thing because supply is so inherently different. Well, with us, the way that we trained, gunners were not so different that we didn't cross-train, but we were always up in the gun, away from what's going on down inside the truck.
Right.
So we learned a lot of communication amongst each other,
Yeah.
nonverbal communication, hand and arm signals. It was critical that we were able to talk to one another across the different vehicles, especially if comms went down, because sometimes your frequency hop didn't work, or the fill didn't come out correctly, or you're on the wrong channel. My favorite part of training that was gunner specific in the truck that we always did, and that I actually passed on as I became an E5 and an E6, was this is something that helped when you didn't think about it all the time. And that was learning to back your vehicle up from the gun, being able to direct your driver to go left, right, back it up, back into the certain spot, being able to parallel park, because in the training environment, we always use a ground guide, right? Well, when you're in a combat scenario, maybe you don't have time to use a ground guide. And so being able to look to the rear, know that to your eyes you mean to go right, but you have to tell the driver to go left, and closer, slower, faster. Those type of things that are real world correlation to what you do in combat was something that the gunners in our squad platoon worked on specifically, and it was really, really helpful. And it's not part of standard training that you think about. It's something that we just developed because we saw a need there.
Right, and that's, well, you just said it, but it's just something unique that y'all just kind of, you don't think about for training purposes. And I've never even thought about that. Even being up in the gunner seat, you're kind of out of the truck, you know, to an extent. So everything that's going on in it, you don't really see everything that's going on or hear the conversation per se. So getting that view right there, that's, to me, that would be a good training aspect just at home station there. It does make it safe, obviously, because yes, we're in garrison, but I mean, just to think, I never would have thought of that. Just backing up, moving a hand. You know, you always hear about the hand and arm signals and stuff like that, but talking out of the turret and communicating to the driver and letting them kind of just do it themselves and figure it out, because that would definitely help. So that's one right there. That's a key thing to think about. That's kind of unique.
It creates a need between the driver and gunner, because they have their own relationship, just like the driver and the TC have their own relationship. But you have to build that trust, and you have to know that what the gunner is telling the driver is right. And they're just going to blindly do that because you have that trust and you have that teamwork that's been built over a certain amount of time and training. It was really, really good. And whenever I became an E5 and an E6 and we deployed the next time, myself and my teammates or my fellow team leaders, on downtimes or whenever the squad leader or platoon was having a bub or a cub or sub or whatever happened to be, we would take them out into a gravel parking lot, set up cones, and tell the gunners, hey, we need you all to back this truck up to that cone. And you figure it out. And when you mess it up, back up, do it again. Until you built that rapport, you built that correlation of trust between the driver and the gunner, and you can do it without even thinking about it. You'll see that throughout, you know, hopefully our talk, that, you know, the training really comes out when you don't think about it, because when the firefight happens or whenever, you know, the shit hits the fan, you're always going to lower yourself down to your best level of training. And you know, you can always prepare for the best possible scenarios and think that you're going to do this, but it's muscle memory. Whenever you do certain things over and over, those are the things that are going to come out when it actually matters, when you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I can't wait to hear that side of it. But like being, you know, switching over to different MOSs, did it seem like some of that training you just kept doing over the years, or when you went a different route, a different MOS or a different company, did things change at home station drills or even going to ranges or wherever? Did you see a common thing of, hey, I could fix this a little better and you know do it my way and kind of put myself in those places to help train? Or was it like you started seeing other people doing kind of similar things or being, like you said, unique and coming up with something else?
You know, sometimes you'll see that TTPs are pretty universal. There are certain things that just work no matter where you're at, no matter what type of unit you're in. And then, you know, certain companies train on certain things more than others. And then when you have those broadening opportunities, you get those assignments, you get an opportunity to say, you know, that may work, but have you considered this? Or if you look in the FM or if you look in the training manual, this is an alternate way of doing things. And then sometimes you'll see when they're doing exercises or during an AT, when they're running their field exercise to actually close out their AT, they'll run through and have an IED strike or something, and we may be observing, and you look and you're like, oh, that's scary to me, because we see what the actual results can be. But that's what the best thing about AARs. AARs are the greatest successes are built off the failures of AARs. You know, failures and learning and constantly growing and being able to adapt. Adaptability is huge, because we don't go to combat in a vacuum. You know, you have to be able to adapt to whatever's going on. And maybe the TTP or the field manual or the TCP says to do one thing no matter what. You know, sometimes you've got to do that. Those are baseline things that you can grow from. And it takes intelligent NCOs and intelligent soldiers to be able to work together and build those TTPs that work for their teams and squads.
Yeah. That's something to me is to relay, because I know for us here, we're trying to really talk to those squad leaders, those team leaders. And when you get promoted to those spots, sometimes, you know, you leave where you know. And I think it's a very common thing, too, to get you some upper mobility, that you go to a different, you know, a different company or a different battalion, and then you kind of watch, and it's like, I don't, you know, especially if you've got great training tactics, I don't want you to ever be scared, you know, to speak up, like you said, and say, hey, have you thought about doing it this way? Or can we start incorporating this, because this really worked for us, and doing that. So I think giving that voice of, this is how training needs to be creative, keep showing your ideas, and doing that, I think it's a good thing. So
unfortunately, you'll see that a lot, that there are really, really capable NCOs, really, really strong, smart, and intelligent NCOs that will conduct the training. But a lot of the times, the unfortunate part is that this organization is built off of hundreds of years of success in what they do and how they do it. And one of those is the organization's built like Office Space. Whenever he says, I've got 8 different bosses, Bob, you know, so they're expecting to be guided and told what to do. But whenever you're an E5 or an E6, I would definitely say that if you know what you're doing, if you're confident in what you're doing, take ownership of your team. You know, make them yours. Make that your squad, and protect and circle the wagons around your guys, and be like, this is my squad. And the platoon sergeant's obviously going to have sole authority, and the platoon leader and command team. But they're yours. And one thing that we took to take ownership of that was myself, and he's out now, Sergeant Riddle, and actually Sergeant First Class Shelly. Let's see, Shelly Burkett. I'm sorry, she's a recruiter over there. But we were team leaders at the same time. In a squad, and we would always talk about our kids. Go get the kids. We got to have a briefing. Go get the kids. And it's not trying to be disparaging to the soldiers that we have, but it's the fact that we're taking ownership of our team, and we're treating them like our family, because we depend on them as much as they depend on us. It's a single unit, and we weren't treating them like kids or anything like that, but we would talk about them in the third person, like, go get the kids, because we got to do something, because we treated them like they were ours and they were our responsibility, and it's a big responsibility to have.
It is. It really is. And I get what you're saying there, because I think that's one thing that always for me made me successful is, like you said, I had very competent NCOs, and they were, you know, the team leaders. They were ready to get it. They, you know, full of piss and vinegar, just ready to work. And it seemed like for my platoon, as long as I kind of took care of them, but listened to their ideas, and they understood that I was listening to them. I knew I had to kind of make the decision, you know, at the final, being the final authority. But it was like I was very about, hey man, y'all are getting after it. What's working, what's not.
Sure.
Like you said, those AARs, just hey, this was good, this wasn't. So let's fix this part. And I think as you went on, especially like when, you know, even deployments or whatever, it was like you really saw the team come together. It's like a family. It does feel like a family. Like you're very protective. You don't want that damn platoon sergeant going over my platoon. You know what I mean? You stay over there. So it's like you want to fight it out like a family, but
Absolutely.
everybody's got your back. And I think that's what makes it a kind of a beautiful thing when you have that cohesive just team that can operate together. Everybody has each other's back.
And when you take ownership of your team or your squad or whatever it happens to be, that kind of confidence and ownership of that translates up to the platoon level and company level, and it makes it easier for them to loosen the reins a little bit.
Right.
You know, you eventually, when you're riding the horse, you got to be like, he knows what he's doing, and just let him go. You know, that giving that confidence to the squad leader, the platoon sergeant, to know that this guy's got this, or this girl's got this, this soldier has his team or their squad, it makes it easier on them. And it allows them to provide a little top cover. If they're out there doing something, training at a different area or something, but they're getting the job done and they're really successful in what they're doing, and they're meeting the commander's intent, it's easy for them to tell the first sergeant commander, like, hang on, they know what they're doing, let them have that. And, you know, giving them that trust and gaining that trust from them as well is a great dynamic that I really hope that everybody gets a chance to endure, because the Guard, you know, we join this for the different benefits. We join it for school benefits, or the TRICARE alone is, you know, worth staying in just because, especially if you've got a family, it's ridiculous. But the whole point of the military is to fight and win America's wars. And when you can just take the reins off and they know you've got this, that makes it really, really spectacular.
Yeah. And that kind of made me laugh, because people know me. I mean, I'm not a very serious guy. I think you kind of gather that. But it's like, speaking of that, it's like when the platoon was like just clicking and we were rocking and rolling, you know, mission success and stuff like that. It was just funny because, you know, my commander, he would really, I mean, him and my first sergeant really always kind of had my back, because they would bring something up. You'd always see your command, they'd be like, you're gonna let him do this? Yeah. Like, Benningfield? Like, and they'd be like, calm down, you know. So that always, you know, because you like to do some hood rat stuff. You know what I mean? You gotta make it fun. You gotta make it fun. And the platoon always had fun, but I knew when to kind of hone it in, and I think that's another thing for teamwork is, you know, we made training fun, we did stuff together, but just to see, you know, the upper commands and stuff would be like, shit, I don't know about this, and they'd be like, it's fine, and it would work, and it's like having that backing gives you confidence as a team.
It does.
And I love that about them. I love good leadership, but let's flip the switch then.
Okay.
Bad leadership. You ever learn something from something that just, hey, we shouldn't be doing this, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can always take everything you go through, whether you have good leaders or bad leaders, is learning for you. And it's on you as a soldier to learn from it. And you take that, and I've taken that throughout my entire career, especially going through the different levels of G1 all the way down to the detachment level at the what we would call the 10 level of the unit, is take the good and the bad, learn the way that affected you. If you have, you know, maybe leadership that you would be a little bit more successful, or a little bit more aggressive, or a little bit more knowledgeable, or a little bit more forthright in their intent or whatever. Take that, understand how it affected you, and then ensure that you don't do that whenever you're in that position later. And that's the best we can do. We have great NCOs that provide advice and guidance to the officers in their charge. The officers do a great job of creating intent and implementing it, and sometimes there's good cohesiveness and it works, and sometimes there really doesn't. It doesn't matter, because the Guard is a cross-section of the regular population. We just take the best of that cross-section, and not everything is always going to work out as far as leadership styles, we'll call it. Some people don't relate better to their soldiers, and, you know, that's just part of it. But all things will come to pass, and you just, you know, learn from those times, grow with them, and hopefully you don't take that and translate it down to what your soldiers do, and how you train your soldiers in the future.
Right. And I think that's a thing that a lot of them especially younger soldiers or something, you'll have a bad experience, but that's life. I mean, that's what I try to tell people is, that's life. You're going to have a bad experience somewhere, and sometimes you always hear that term, toxic leadership, and it's like, if you break it down, like you said, it's like, hey, we might get in a situation or a training event or something. It's just like, this seems miserable or something's not working or whatever. But it's like, you've got to find the good out of the bad, because that's what's going to make you better anyways. And I think taking that step back sometimes, and maybe it's the way they're communicating. Maybe they can't communicate. I get it. I mean, they've worked themselves up to certain ranks and stuff like that. But I always try to find the good in it, and that's why I try to instill. I think that's what makes a well-rounded warrior, is not always just focusing on this is what's wrong, this person's always wrong, they make the wrong. It's like, hey, I got it, but we're making decisions, and especially in a training environment, it's the time to fail. Yep. And that's why I always tell everybody, in which we'll get in a little bit further here in a minute, because you'll know the life scenario of it when shit hits the fan. But at the time when you're training, it's the best time to let people, hey, loosen the reins a little bit, let them do this, and then we'll correct it afterwards. And that way we'll build, but don't always focus on it's the leadership. Be the leader yourself.
Right.
Make your own path, but create something, and don't always blame it on, it's the leadership. Because I know, we've all been in scenarios where it's like, this ain't the best situation, or, man, this sucks. It just sucks. But embrace the suck and do it,
That's exactly what I was thinking about. We've all had, throughout our careers, times where we've been in November at the range, and it's the night fire, and it's raining, and it's just cold enough that it's miserable, but it's not quite cold enough for it to be snow, so you're just getting there soaking wet. You're standing around and you're like, what am I doing? But if you look around and you see that maybe somebody else is a little bit more miserable, that's good enough for me. I'll take it as long as they're really hating it. But embrace the suck is a great thing, and it's not a mantra that you try to ascribe to, that it always sucks, but embrace the suck, because that's when you grow, and that's when you get better, and that's when you get to have adversity. You can't overcome something if you don't ever have adversity. And knowing that you have the personal courage to overcome adversity, no matter what it is, small, big, whatever, just relish in it and just absorb it, and let it roll off your back.
And a lot of it is, when you're talking to battle buddies or just friends, people who've gotten out or whatever, sometimes you reflect on the bracing the suck. Those stories, that's the stories that you made. You made the best of it, but remember that time we was here? Remember the range we were on? It was a shit show.
Absolutely.
Like, blah, 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 blah. But those are the stories. So it's like, if you just kind of hone in on, hey, where are we at? What we're doing? What's the intent? Let's make the best of it. Like you said, and every now and then you might find somebody that's a little bit more sucking than you are. It's
They
like,
are.
oh man, let's just get through this. But
It's an opportunity to say, hey, maybe you can help them gain perspective and maybe come out of it.
Yeah.
Or maybe if they're in another platoon that maybe your platoon's a little bit competitive with, because competition breeds success.
Yeah.
And be like, well, they're hating it, so we're winning.
Right.
As long as somebody else is in worse shape than you, you're doing okay.
That's awesome. With training events, you've been in for a hot minute, it seemed like, and then you go on these deployments, and you probably went through a lot of training before and pre-mobs and all that stuff, and then you show up there and you kind of start seeing like the real life part of the war, right? You're in it. So what was the confidence then, like your first deployment, especially as an E4, like going into it, like, hey, the team's good, but this is the real deal. Is the training good enough? Are we going to be, did you ever really think about stuff like that?
Sure, absolutely. I'll never forget being in Kuwait as we sat there for a couple of weeks of just getting ready to go into country.
Right.
You were in Camp Virginia, which is a dusty hole at the time because they hadn't built it up quite as much. You start thinking about, what's this really going to be like? What's this going to really be like? We hear these reports, we hear about what we're going into. We're trying to think about the rip that's going to happen, the relief in place with the company that we're replacing, and trying to get as much information as you can. But until you've been there and step off the plane and get blasted with the hot air on the flight line, at the E4 level, one thing that we did or didn't have, because it's not necessarily a need to know, but at that level, you can't absorb everything that the company commander and the first sergeant and the platoons know, because you don't need to, and there's no need to have that much stress on you. So you trust that your leadership knows what they're doing and what's going on. But something that was funny was we stepped off the plane in BIOP after one of the worst C-130 rides ever, where they come in with those, we'll call it combat landings, and they kind of spiral. They spiral over it, and you feel like you're going to throw up in a bathtub. and you get off the plane and you're like, well, this must be bad if they're landing like this.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that, I hadn't done the research to know that BIOP was a relatively secure area. We step off and we get on these buses to take us to our pad, and we're like, we're outside the wire right now. We're not. So you're terrified. Just not knowing.
Those emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. Just not knowing is enough to make you start to think.
Yeah.
But you know that if it gets down to it, you're going to be okay.
Right.
Because you're where you're supposed to be. You're where you've been directed. You're where you've been ordered. These things have been coordinated for you.
Yeah.
The only time that you are curious about it is just because you haven't experienced it before.
Yeah.
The second time we go in, it's ironic that we were in Pad 12 of Camp Liberty in 2004 and 5, and sure enough, Pad 12, I was like 2 trailers over the same place that we were in 8 and 09.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that experience of being able to talk to my team and be like, this is what's going to happen. This is the why. This is the what. And given that knowledge, whether they want it or not, gives a sense of ease. So the knowledge is everything, and being able to understand what's going on and why it's happening and how this is going on, and you're not outside the wire right now. It's fine. We're going to go over here, and the chow hall's right over there.
Right.
And having leadership that has that experience.
That's great.
Is really comforting.
Yeah.
And I knew that Sergeant Nein had already deployed and had a good idea of what's going on. So even as an E4, following him blindly was fine with me because I was dealing with my E4 stuff and other gunners, but I understood that he knew what was going on, and that was good enough for me.
Yeah.
And he'd built that trust in us with the way he
awesome.
conducted training.
Right. And that, it all dials back to that. Like he kind of already built that rapport with you because of the training event. So, so y'all are in Iraq, you're deployed, and we have some issues that happen eventually. So
We did.
let's take a quick break, and when we come back in, let's jump into the Raven 4-2.
Sure.
All right. Welcome back for part 2 of this Raven 4-2 with Sergeant First Class Cooper. We've kind of talked about his life, we've talked about training, building up to the deployment, but before we start getting into your firefights and those scenarios, tell me about this window we got sitting here off a Humvee.
Yeah, so this is, we'll call it a souvenir that I was able to bring back. After our vehicles were deadlined after that firefight, mine was particularly jacked up, you'll see.
Yeah.
And that's where, in the gun, standing up in the gun, or the turret, we called it get up in the gun. That's where theoretically my legs would have been.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? Thanks, window.
Yeah.
So when they were replacing parts or whatever, they were just going to dispose of it. And on the way home, I decided to see if I could make it a souvenir.
Yeah.
And Navy Customs was really helpful with that.
Okay.
In their ability to look in a different direction for
Right.
a few minutes. So it's been something that I keep. I just throw it in the office. It's always a conversation piece, and it's always a good reminder of some of the good things and bad things that happen. And I really, it's always nice to have.
I mean, not a lot of people have something like that.
It's proof positive that they can trust their equipment. That's for sure.
Even from the back glass. I mean, can you see me, Sergeant Crane? He's probably going to kill me right now because so many fingers I'm holding up. Or one.
Well, the neat thing is, it's not even cracked. It's not anything on the backside. Yeah, and it took some hard hits, and it's heavy. It's probably, I don't know, 60 pounds.
Oh, I guarantee it. I mean, that thing is built right there. Like,
Yep.
It's just that's wild though. That's what's stopped from basically taking your legs out from under you.
Yeah, and this right here is a key reason of, at least in the MP world, when you dismount, shut the door behind you.
Yeah.
We don't want to let that thing open because rounds will go in there and start bouncing all over the place. But a good TTP is if you dismount, shut the door.
Shut the door.
For goodness sakes.
There you go. All right, so building into that, let's get in. So you're there in Iraq before even the Raven 4-2 incident. Y'all had already kind of got in some firefights.
We
typically
did. Yeah, these were the ones that you see that typically happened.
Yeah.
Obviously, the March 20th incident was an outlier, but for the most part, most of the squads would have really compact small arms engagements of a few minutes at a time while we were doing our route recons and clearance and convoy patrols. And January 29th, it actually, I know that Sergeant Nein, we're not going to go into it deep, but he would talk about the 3 routes we would run through the Baghdad area. This one also happened to be out on the eastern route, on Route Detroit. And we had taken a complex attack of an IED going off and some small arms fire from some gentlemen in a little construction area. Gentlemen. And
Asshole.
yeah. And but there was a BMW there and a little building. And some really good AAR things occurred at that point. And during that time, we realized that I couldn't get to a bad guy that I wanted to get to with my gun, and decided that BMW needed to be disabled.
Okay.
So at that time, our team leader was in the rear passenger seat. Our platoon sergeant was with us that day. He had ridden out with us, and he was in our TC seat. And I decided to yell down during the firefight, "Give me the AT4," because I'm tired of this. Eventually, it's just enough.
Yeah.
So January 29th, he's like, "Are you sure?" I said what I said. So he hands up the AT4, and I remember very specifically holding it exactly the way you're supposed to hold it, going through the checks to get everything ready, pulling the pins, popping the rear sight, trying to pop the front sight, and I couldn't get it. Couldn't get it. Trying to pop it 2 or 3 times, and I'm sitting here getting shot at the entire time because we're exposed up in the gun. And at that time, I kind of said, screw it. So raise it with the one sight that I had, aim, and this is where, in the middle of everything going on, it seems quiet, but it's extremely loud.
Yeah.
Nobody is dismounted at the time, and everything that we were engaging was directly in front of me. But what do is you fall back to your lowest level of training, and in the middle of everything, I still screamed "back blast area clear" over my right side.
Nobody there.
To nobody. But it's just part of the training,
yeah.
and it was muscle memory. And as I was coming back around, I was like, that was stupid. Fire and miss, because I didn't have my second sight, and that was frowned upon in the future. Because we're not out here to engage in fraud, waste, and abuse, but it was the best opportunity I had at the time. So dump that disposable thing. We had changed directions within the engagement area a couple times, and it was before we had the crank style turrets or even the motorized turrets.
Yeah.
This was early on, so we had handles that we would unlock the turret and drag this heavy cast iron thing around because some of our up armor hadn't quite been developed as well as it should have been.
Yeah. That's so the shield?
The shield and then the side shields. And so every time we would come around and he would change direction, I would have to come back around with the 50 cal. And that got tiring or frustrating.
Yeah.
But I know that they were trying to engage or maneuver for a base of fire. And so we always kept a secondary weapon up, and I was a saw gunner. So at one of the turns, I leave my gun in place, and I start engaging with my saw. And I'm not sure if it was a round or an RPG fragment or something, but I'm firing with the saw, and the gun kind of just falls apart in my hands. The handle, pistol grip, breaks off. And if you've ever put the 249 together, you know that there's the pistol grip slides up into a certain spot, and there's a pin there and a pin in the rear. Well, the front pin had been destroyed, and part of that little area of the gun was messed up. And it just falls off in my hand. I'm like, well, this is unfortunate. And I don't know to this day what it was, but adaptability is key. And we would stand on these turret risers that would help you raise up and lower in the turret. And in those were little pins, cotter pins, that were attached to metal braiding wires attached to the truck. And I'll never forget, for whatever reason, I reached down, ripped one of those things off. It had broken the little wire, put the pistol grip back in, and that pin just happened to fit just right, and was able to re-engage. And the gun fired just fine. Wild. And to this day, I have no idea what made me do it. No idea what made me kind of spatial awareness thought that pin was the right size. But it was funny because right before March, from January to February, I had to walk around BIOP because we didn't have armor parts for that gun to fix. I would walk around and that pin was stuck in there and a little piece of braided cable was hanging off of it. Yeah, the entire time. It was wild.
But that's I guess the adapt and overcome thing. I mean, just it is crazy when you're in those moments, though. And I don't mean to laugh at just the way you come off on some of the things, like oh, shit. We've all had those kind of moments, but that's like a life and death situation. And you're still just like, well, damn it.
Yeah, you got to be kidding me.
It's
like, how much worse can this get?
Right.
Like they're shooting the guns out of my hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, work the problem. It's the best you can do. Stay calm.
Yeah.
Everybody says, just don't panic, and that's hard to do.
Yeah.
But a neat aspect is I've heard from a lot of people, I've been asked the question a lot, were you scared? And it seems brave to say no, and it seems disingenuous, but I would say that it's the only true way to say it, because everything that happened to us, fortunately, was reactive. Somebody would attack us or an IED would go off. And in the seconds before that happens, you don't realize it's about to happen. So you don't have time to build up and be feared or in fear. In the middle of it, you're just reactionary. So you're focusing on training, focusing on the things that have to happen and what you need to do. Fear doesn't really come into it a whole lot.
Yeah.
And then by the time it's over with, there's really nothing to be scared of. So you have a sense of relief, or you're working whatever is going on at the time. So it's not trying to be brave or put on a brave face to say, no, I wasn't scared. It's just there wasn't the emotional time for it at that point.
Right.
So it happens to you, you start reacting to it immediately, and by the time it's over with, there's nothing to be scared of it anymore.
Yeah.
But the tip of the spear guys that do things proactively and engage in offense, I would 100% understand, it was scary, because you're thinking about all the different things can go on.
Right.
But all we get a chance to do is react to stuff like that. And that was just one of those where you're just reacting. This thing fell off in my hand. Well, there's a pin down there. Let me see if that fits. That kind of stuff. And then you just, keep going until Sergeant Nein tells you to cease fire. That's the best you can do. Yeah.
That's wild. But, no, that's very cool. Like I said, it's just that kind of reacting yourself and just making it happen and making mission happen. So, but that is a good point. It seems like the mind's always thinking, even though you don't know it.
Sure.
But
yeah.
Well, even in the first kind of, scenario of taking like some kind of tick or something like that, what was your first thoughts then? Like, oh shit, this shit's real. Was it something like that, or was it?
Yeah, it was unique for us in the gun, because an IED feels a certain way when it goes off, and it's not like these deep bellowing booms. It feels like a really, really hard clap and a bang, and it's just immediate and you don't realize it. Yeah. And just about every time we would have an IED engagement, it was the first reaction is always just, oh shit.
Yeah.
And as soon as that initial blast or whatever goes by, you check real quick to make sure that you're okay. Then you start checking your gun, your equipment, and stuff like that. You start rolling through your checks. But an IED is not a sustained engagement. It's just a thing that happens. You react to it real quick and then move on,
right,
and start doing whatever you have to do. But the first time something like that happened, that I very vividly remember, would be an IED that happened at Checkpoint 50 Alpha, where I believe Sergeant Nein actually told the story. Sergeant Major Nein. He's always going to be Sergeant Nein to me. Even to this point, after 20 years, he would demand I call him by his first name, and that's just never going to happen.
It is crazy, because I've noticed that when talking to him, which, I said Timmy. That was the worst idea.
Yeah. No,
I get it from everybody now. Timmy! But you could tell he's just one of those first name basis. I have only met him that one time, and it was Clay. Thanks for having. It was like, that's crazy to me.
The amount of respect that I have for just him as a person and a soldier, and what he's done for me, it'll never be anything but Sergeant Nein. And it's just muscle memory, because I called him Sergeant Nein for ever. But yeah, when those sorts of things happen, you just kind of roll with it. And I very vividly remember that IED going off, and the one he talked about, he said we were going to run it twice because we would patrol a certain area.
Right. Yep. And came back to.
And came back to it. And what he doesn't tell you is what he tells the gunners and stuff to do. And the TTP is to protect us as much as you can because you don't want to have them exposed during a blast. So he's like, hey, get down in the gun. He happened to be in my truck that day. It seems like he's bad luck because every time he was in my truck, something bad seemed to happen.
So y'all don't ride to lunch together?
Right, no. And I was always in the lead truck. We would always rotate our trucks, and anytime something bad happened, I was always the first one to catch it. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
But he would tell me to get down out of the gun. But what he doesn't say is, hey, get up against the window and take a look at it and see what it looks like. See if you can see anything. And so I'm down there like a child peeking through a window in a Christmas display, and about that time, it goes off, and it's just a feeling you never forget. And I'm like, okay, it was play and it was training up to this point, but people are really trying to kill us, and that makes you focus. It makes you be more serious. It makes you not take it more seriously, but it made me mad.
Yeah. And
that's just a human emotional response. It made me mad. It didn't make me scared. It really pissed me off that somebody was trying to do that to us.
Right.
As I grew older, I realized they were the anti-Iraqi forces. They were trying to do the things that they were doing, and they were negative.
Yeah.
But I couldn't say that if Red Dawn happened again, we wouldn't do the same things as soldiers. We would protect our ground, doing what we thought was right. So 99% of the people that we engaged with when we were in Iraq were trying to live their lives. They did not care about us one way or the other. And it was a small percentage that really gave the global war on terrorism in Iraq a bad name because they were doing things that were, anti-government and anti-American.
Yeah.
But for the most part, those people were fantastic. But we would do the same thing because you protect the ground you live on. Yeah. And so I get it. I empathize. But you got to protect your life, and you got to protect the lives of those around you too.
Yeah. So I get that too. I mean, I know what you're saying, like all those feelings and emotions. But I mean, that for what y'all were just kind of constantly getting into, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's just like it seemed like from the rip too. So, but let's go into the Raven 4-2. I know, like I said, Sergeant Major Nein has kind of told the story, but from your perspective, I mean, you got hit right from the rip.
I did. So my perspective was really, really, I had a narrow focus. Mm-hmm. I was the lead vehicle, and we would typically shadow convoys. We would clear an area before the convoy window opened to try to, because we want to take any of the bad stuff going on, whether it's IEDs or small arms fire or anything like that, because we're equipped and prepared to deal with that sort of scenario. So the idea is to clear that route, take on anything that's going on. That way we know by the time the convoy window opens up that we can just kind of cruise through, get behind and shadow a convoy as it goes through and make sure that they make through our sector clear. As I was told, because I was just a gunner.
Yeah.
So
here's the game plan.
Yeah. So I'm up in the gun, and we get behind the convoy after we had stopped and spoken to him a few times. We're like, hey, you're at the top of ours. We'll follow you through all the way to the end of our area and let you get through. And they were probably a half mile, 3/4 of a mile ahead of us. And I see smoke, and the vehicles start shifting to the left. They start moving really hard to the left. The semis were moving left and right. And then I hear the really, really specific sound of gunfire from that distance. Yeah. And it sounds like crackles. And Sergeant Nein had already seemed to have noticed what was going on, but I yelled down in the gun, they're getting hit, go, go, go. And go, full red on 50 cal. And we could tell based off of who we could see in the field to the right and the vehicles that were moving to the left where the kill zone was. And so our driver pushed us right where we needed to be. It was the worst spot. It was between us and the convoy they were attacking.
Yeah.
Because you want to draw fire to take it off TCNs, third country nationals that haven't done anything to anybody.
Yeah.
So shift the gun to the right and see way more target or people than I thought it was realistic. I was like, there's no way it's that many.
Yeah. Kind of caught you off guard then.
It did, because there was a big ditch next to a canal that was right next to the road that ran parallel to the road. And very initially, all I could see was, flashes of heads and things like that. Right. But they were popping up like whack-a-mole, and they were up and down, and I'm like, that's a lot. But we started engaging targets because we could see they were clearly engaging us. Sergeant Nein says to make the right turn. I can't hear any of that, but I just trust that he knows what he's doing, because I'm busy doing what I'm doing and everybody has a job. As soon as we start to make the turn, the vehicle slows down just enough to make the turn. I look to the right a little bit, and the lights go out. And what had happened was the chicken shield, or the front shield to the top of the gun, when it's over the front of the vehicle, is fine. But as it turns to the right, it sticks out over the side of the vehicle. And when the RPG had struck the side of the vehicle, it funneled some of the explosion up and into the gun with me, and the concussion itself just put me out.
That's amazing.
And
do you remember anything before you woke, like how you got there? Because he said you went into the back of the vehicle, right? You went down there.
I don't remember going from A to B.
Yeah.
I remember being at A and then being mad at Sergeant Nein because he tells something different. Well, we won't get into that. But
we're going to have both of y'all.
He did. Yeah, we can have a. He said I remember him doing exactly what he was supposed to do, which was, the gun is down. I got to get up in the gun. The gun has got to be up.
Right.
And to do that, I was in the way. So I was woken by him to like kicking me or stepping on me to get me out of the way.
Yeah.
And I woke up mad.
I get that.
I was like,
that would be
I'm fine. Get off me. So
I get that.
He's like, well, then get up there then. I'm like, my bad. So then we get back up in the gun. And
I just got blown up.
Yeah, no. I was like, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm good. Get off me. I remember saying, get off me, and he'll never admit. But he was doing what he was supposed to do, and it woke me up enough to put me back up there.
Yeah.
We see the same line of cars that he saw, drove down really far enough that we could get all the vehicles in the same route that didn't space it out enough that it wouldn't make two targets out of one, or one target. Yeah. Two targets into one. And at that point, the rest of the firefight really started. It seemed like it went by in a blink of an eye, but after we looked at the timelines and everything, it ended up being a lot longer than we all anticipated. Sergeant Nein and the driver pulling had dismounted and continued their fights, where I'm engaging targets over the top of them, because they're taking short turn, the 50-meter targets that we talk about, or in their instance, the 5 or 6 meter targets.
Right.
And then we're providing overfire for areas out in the orchard. Specialist Haynes was in a rough spot. Their vehicle parked almost parallel to the main canal where all the people were, and he was laying it down, and really doing that. And so we had the opportunity to, when the guys in that tunnel, or the viaduct or whatever it was, the great big ditch, were having a bad day. They would try to come out over the top and fight from the top. Well, that's where myself and Specialist Ordonez had the opportunity to neutralize that. And after a while, you get really comfortable in your equipment, and you start feeling really good about your positioning and what you're doing. One TTP that we engaged was our first can of ammo. As the 50 cal gunner, we would always empty out a Mark 19 can, which is the big 48 can, and it had a lot of space, much more than the 100 round cans. So throughout the year, or before the very first mission, what we would idea is link a bunch of 50 cal cans together and then load it in there. So you've got a big starting point before you've got to reload. And I realized that I'd emptied that relatively soon, even with fairly decent 3 to 5 second bursts and re-engaging my weapon onto different targets. I was like, wow, we got to do an ammo change. I was like, this is a lot of ammo.
Yeah.
So we do ammo changes, re-rack, and then you start, on a butterfly trigger.
Right.
You start to feel pretty good. And it's about that time, I'm looking like this with my elbows out, and I start hearing think, think, and the zip and snap of gunfire, but it is not coming from in front of us. It's coming from a raised berm behind us, and then a house that was behind us. And when you realize that you're not covered as well from the back, you start to think skinny real quick.
Yeah.
And you start getting there like this.
I'm going to get as small as I can get.
Yeah, yep. Our vehicle's damaged. I'm stuck where I'm at. Sergeant Nein had come back one more time, or he had come back a couple times to grab a bandolier of ammo. And, he would communicate whatever he could. And it was mostly what we're doing. He's letting me know what he's doing. Clear and concise communications still worked. But at a certain point, I had kind of cleared my sector, or my little field of fire, because we had interlocking field of fires, and it was time to move on to something else. That house was still a problem.
Right.
And this is farther on down the firefight. It was almost to the end of it, but the house was still a problem, and I couldn't get a good shot at it. And so Sergeant Nein comes back one more time, and he's talking about killing the FPCB2 and starting to destroy all the SI, because we still have, things to do. But at that time, my ear pro was gone somewhere. It had fallen out, and in order for us to use ear pro up in the gun, it made it really hard, because you wanted to be able to hear everything that's going on outside of the truck. But Sergeant Nein always kept his ear pro right in the bands inside of his helmet. He had kept an extra set. And he came back to the truck one more time, and I had self-determined that we're going AT4 again. And I yelled down into him through the top of the turret, "Nein, give me your earplugs." And he's like, "What?" I was like, "You heard me." And he sticks it, blindly just sticks his head up in there. He's offering it to me. I grab one, and he runs back off. Didn't question it. He knew if I was asking for it, it was for a reason.
Right.
Put the ear pro back in, because the one in January, I kind of lost my hearing for a couple days.
Yeah.
It came back, but I didn't want to experience that again. Fire the AT4. Mike fires his AT4, and we get to a point where, just in case, and that scenario is done, I dump the AT4, and I'm right here in front of all the vehicles that were open and ready to escape. Mm-hmm. And I had cleared my sector of what I could see. And I was like, well, none of these guys are getting away. So I start unloading on engine blocks. So I disable every vehicle there.
That's wild.
To make sure that they couldn't get done. What was great was the fact that my barrel got so hot that at the end of the firefight, it had started to, heat makes metal expand, and it started to droop, and it came back, but we never misfired, because of the status that he made us keep our weapons in. Because when we were a gunner, that was all that mattered.
Yeah.
And we kept our weapons as clean as possible. And God forbid, in the rainy season, if you had rust on it, because I'm not saying he'll make you carry your barrel around with you everywhere you go if you have to clean rust off the tip.
Suggestion.
Yeah, but you may have to clear it going into the chow hall, and it looks really funny when you look down the tube of a 50 cal barrel and say clear.
Yeah.
But the weapon never jammed.
Yeah.
We were confident in what we were doing. Unloaded all of the remainder of that I thought was necessary into the engine blocks. Called ceasefire. My vehicle is out there alone, and it's a scary spot to be in. You feel really alone, because your comms are down in the truck, and you don't want to give up on your gun. The vehicles that were still with the squad are a few hundred meters behind us. Sergeant Nein and Hester and Mo and everybody had moved down towards the main engagement. And I was like, well, I'm not staying here. So I dropped down in the vehicle, and I was like, the vehicle's already busted. So I throw it in reverse and just limp my way back there to kind of consolidate a little bit, get back up in the gun, and see that Sergeant Nein has called ceasefire after all the different things that had gone on. So we left somebody up in the gun. I dismounted and get down to check on him, and he's already started working Casevacs and Medevacs and coordinating those things. And he comes to me and he's like, and I do have some blood on me from being injured and some shrapnel and concussion stuff. And he's like, "Where are you shot?" I was like, "Where are you shot?" And I'm like, I don't think I'm shot like through and through anywhere. And he's like, "What did you need the ear pro for?" I said, "Because I didn't want to lose my hearing when I shot the AT-4. Yeah. He thought I was plugging a bullet hole or something and being all John Rambo. It's like, no. My ears are sensitive. Yeah. And I learned from my mistake the first time. Adaptability and learning from your mistakes is critical." And he rolls his eyes like I'd never seen before in my life. And then we continue on with securing the area for the rest of the day, because that was a long day. That happened early in the morning, and we didn't get to clear until well after dark that night.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Well, I thank you for sharing it. But let's take one more break. Sure. And we'll kind of round out. I mean, it's a lot to take in with the firefight. So let's we'll kind of hone in on what kind of the back end was you for Raven 4-2, and then we'll kind of close out.
Sounds good.
All right. Welcome back to the G3P. We're here with Sergeant Cooper. We've heard a lot about you today, even through the scenarios we were just talking about with the combat situations. But before we kind of close out, I want to ask about that final situation you were talking about. Mm-hmm. I know you were talking about Sergeant Major Nein and them, they kind of going out and doing some clearing, and everybody just kind of seemed like they were in different locations of the fight.
Sure.
Loneliness. Did it feel lonely out there? I mean, I know you said it's like it was a long time, but y'all kind of all broke off, and to be out there just kind of slinging lead and trying to do whatever you got to do for your survivability. What was the feeling, I guess? I mean, I thought that was one of the words we had kind of used. So
yeah, absolutely. It is a solitary feeling. I know that my closest, battle buddy was going to be Ordonez, and he was in the gun far enough that I could yell at him and he could theoretically hear me if it was over gunfire or not. But it felt like as a gunner, as that E4, you're on an island. Yeah. You felt like you're on your own, and you're not. You've always got your team and they're working towards one goal, but you feel like I'm up here decision making on myself as an 18, 19-year-old, and trying to do the best that you possibly can, focusing on the training that you've been given. But at some point you're like, even if you get to a point where you realize your squad leader is telling you or talking about destroying FPCB2, you don't really think about that. Yeah. But you just realize it might be a chance to try to do whatever you can to save yourself, which is saving the squad at the same time. Just doing your job up until you can't do your job anymore. But there were definitely lonely feelings, and it was great to know that when it was over, we got to, reconcile and get back together and get the family back in the same room, because just because a firefight's over, just like anything, when the main event finishes, there's still a lot of stuff that has to happen. Right. And it was a great adventure in utilizing all the training we've been given, because every time you think about having to do non-light medevac training, being able to do it and being able to call in a bird and pop smoke, or multiple birds, and call smoke and have them land where you need to, making sure you got the grid right, was an awesome experience to get to see. It obviously was in a bad scenario, and it sucks that so many people lost their lives and so many of our comrades got injured, and especially Sergeant Rivera, Haynes, and Mac. You hate to see that anybody gets hurt, but to understand that all these areas of training that we go through that are just basic Army Warrior tasks can have to be implemented at the drop of a hat. You never know which weapon system you're going to have to use. You never know when you're going to have to do CLS, and we had the opportunity to try to render aid to some of the, that were pretty badly wounded, but we would stick IVs and bandage and try to do what you can. We put them on birds and medevaced them out, and not just our guys, everybody. And then you go through different, we would call it civil disturbance training, because after a while a crowd will gather, and you've got to make sure that you're doing crowd control and things like that. And all that training that you go through on a weekly or daily basis, even at some random armory around the state of Kentucky, all come together and really, really gets utilized for the overall goal. And that's a satisfying feeling. At that point, when you realize all that stuff was not for naught, to be able to say that training was for a purpose and you actually got to use it was really, really satisfying. It's not something I would ever hope anybody ever has to do or use, but to know that it works and to know that you will fall back on it and you will know what you're doing. You will know how to do random evidence collection when you're gathering up stuff, and whether it's as a military police investigator that I went to later, utilizing interviews and interrogation techniques on a gentleman that came out unscathed, how to do detainee operations, all the things that MPs do. We were in a unique and fortunate opportunity and spot to get to do all those at one time in one day, and make it out successfully. And I 100%, I know we're not going to get out of here without, I don't want to get out of here without saying that it wasn't just myself and the team and the squad. It was everybody that trained us, even from the goobers that we fought with at 1st Army during Moab Site. And everything that we had led up to that point, for Specialist Pullen, Shambone, Ordonez, Haynes, Mack, Rivera, Specialist Mike, thank God he was there that day, Hester, Morris, Sergeant Nein, even through our company command and the platoon sergeants that gave us the autonomy to run missions the way that we saw was going to be successful, was it all comes together, and it's because of them, because of their dedication to it, because of Sergeant Nein's willingness to do the hard right over the easy wrong in training on things that weren't necessarily in our wheelhouse, but to do them anyway. It made that day successful. It didn't make it fun, but it made it adventurous and something that you would talk about. After that, we actually had the opportunity to go back with Sergeant Nein and the team to Fort Leonard Wood and discuss AAR comments and doctrine and how that can affect MP operations in the future, and I think we were able to gain a lot from that engagement. And as an E4, moving up into E5 and E6 and being able to use that experience to help train other soldiers has served me as much as it has served others. It's like even a therapeutic thing. Be like, hey, listen, getting it out, being able to talk about it, and being able to deal with it while making your soldiers around you better has always been a great goal of mine, and one I've been able to see through throughout my career, and it's been great.
Man, it's I thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
Sometimes it can be tough too. So, but some of the things that I just from hearing that it was amazing that you're talking about just the basic skill level, warrior tasks that you do around the armory. I mean, it just shows. I mean, it pays off to get those muscle memories going, even if it's loading a radio or whatever. I know we've talked about many things, but between that and then also after the whole incident that y'all got to go back and kind of build some TTPs, it seems like, and people hearing you and this work, this didn't, and kind of do different doctrine and move it in the right direction of this is what's happened. I think it's something that will always occur because we're so adaptive in the wars we're fighting now. So, but no, that's amazing. I like I said, once again, thank you for sharing the story. It was I'm sure there's more to it. I would love to sit down with you and we'll talk about everything. But for today, before you do get out of here, I'd like to give you a gift. Something we like to do here on the G3P. I will say this before I pull yours out.
I didn't get you anything.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to.
I should have.
No.
Give you a Tic Tac like in Home Alone. You're like,
we'll give a fist bump. The first two, I've kind of tailored the thing that I did for a gift, but this one I had bought it. So I'm cheapskate on this one. I bought it off Amazon. I was going to doctor something up. It was so kick-ass when I got it. I was like, I didn't really do anything to it.
Okay.
But I think you'll enjoy, especially in the time of year we're in. I was like, he just needs to get him this big old Raven blanket.
Oh,
Now, I wanted to
nice.
put a 4-2 on it or something, but I think I'll tell you what, Crane, are you getting this? Let's hold it out like this. Can you see that? I mean, that's kick-ass.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, now I've only used it twice because I was like, it does feel good.
Yeah.
So you'll smell me a little bit,
okay.
but it's all good.
Right.
But I did on the tag somewhere, I did put RG3P and the date that you were on here. And I hope you can put that somewhere or hang it and always remember this.
We'll use it in good health.
But yeah, I couldn't do anything to that one. It felt good. It's a cool blanket, and hopefully,
Thanks
the
a lot.
Raven.
I appreciate it.
No problem at all. And well, Sergeant Cooper, thank you for your time. Thank you for your story, being here with us today. It means a lot. I know there's a lot more to talk about, but I think squad leaders, team leaders, anybody listening can take some tactics from you and your platoons and all your stories and see that, hey, utilize your training, utilize your time, be successful. I mean, we're the best, fighting warriors out there. So let's make it happen. Let's win the nation's wars. And so I appreciate you being here today.
Thank
and
you
with
for
that
having
being
me.
said, enjoy life, be healthy, stay lethal. Hope to see you on the next episode. G3P out. Does that sound good?
I loved it. It was fantastic. Don't ever change.
Don't ever change.
Thank you for joining us on the Kentucky National Guard G3 podcast, where we bring you the voices and stories behind the mission. Stay connected, stay ready, and we'll see you on the next episode.